Hello, my fourth graders. So for this project, we are going to focus on symmetry. Symmetry is when something is exactly the same on each side. This is reflection symmetry. For example, this like little tree shape here on your left is symmetric. That line down the center is the line of symmetry, and on each side of it, it's exactly the same. If an object is not exactly the same on each side, it's called asymmetric. So just a second ago I said the line of symmetry. That's a line where if you put it right down the middle of the object, it would be exactly the same on each side. Some objects have one line of symmetry and some objects have a lot more. For example, this rectangle here, line of symmetry going vertically, but additionally I could draw it in half there and it would be the same on each side. With this star, you have one, let's see, doing my best drawing with a mouse. There's 2, 3, 4, 5 lines of symmetry on the star. And on the triangle, we have 3. And then here on this arrow is an example of an object that only has one line of symmetry. If I tried to dissect it horizontally, for example, the top is different from the bottom, so that can't be symmetric in that sense. It can only be symmetric with a vertical line of symmetry as such. So here are just some objects that show symmetry. The triangle we went over a minute ago. The butterfly only has one line of symmetry this direction vertically. If you did it the other direction, it wouldn't work. The rhombus here has lines of symmetry diagonally. The heart, and then the Q actually is not symmetrical. That is asymmetric. So with the other objects in the other slides, I am showing you a mathematical concept. If you're sitting in a math test or math class and you're asked if something is symmetrical, it has to be exactly the same on each side. Well, in art, it can be a little bit different. In art, you can have symmetry, but it can be a little bit different. For example, this is showing symmetry. And an artist will do that to give a sense of balance to their picture, of a sense of visual balance. So it's not heavy on one side of the picture. You don't have all your objects to one side. It sort of evenly disperses the picture and the composition. So for example, this is symmetric, but not in a mathematical sense. It's not exactly the same on each side. It's a little bit different on each side. Also here is another example of symmetry in art. So this is a photograph, and another really good example where, I mean, short of Photoshop, I guess they could have Photoshopped the picture, but if the photographer is standing there in what looks like an airport terminal, they can't go and say, hey, can you knock down that building in the background and change the whole setup just so my picture can be symmetrical. So here is an example of where there's a little bit of leeway, but it still gives a nice balanced composition. There's another example. And this one's kind of radial also, which is going to be our next project. A line of symmetry there. One going this direction. And then I always like to bring this picture in because here's an example of a job that required an artist to think about bringing in balance into their composition, and so they decided to use symmetry. So a graphic designer was hired to create a poster for a movie, and they needed to show all the characters, get people interested in this movie, and the way that they chose to do that was by using symmetry. So you can tell, besides the name, with the artwork and the composition specifically, you can see like Thor is going to be the most important person in this movie, considering that he's right there in the middle. And then you have the other two main characters coming in, and then he's flanked on each side by two more characters. There's one small one in the center, maybe piquing your interest, like, oh, who's that? So a graphic designer is somebody who creates artwork using the computer, and usually will do it for companies and movie houses, for example, like this one here for Marvel Studios. They did Thor Ragnarok video, or not video, but poster, movie poster. So that's kind of where we're headed with our picture. I'm going to show you guys a printmaking technique and how we're going to create a symmetrical alien picture.